Hi there. This is Donna Nauman, nurse practitioner, functional medicine, and loving healing. Today, I am here with Julie Priest. She is a pranic healer and educator. She has her own practice at Prana for health, but today she's going to be joining us and encouraging people to learn about pranic healing and take classes and how to begin to heal ourselves. What a concept.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about what you do and what your passion is.
So my passion is teaching other people about pranic healing. I learned about pranic healing back in the 1900s. I was raising 3 little children, and one of my children received a remarkable healing through pranic healing in combination with craniosacral therapy, and we can tell that story in a moment. But the results of her healing inspired me to learn how to do the work so I could continue the healing process for her. And it blossomed into me working on other members of my family. I also learned how to do healing for myself, and I helped my mom who had chronic migraines. And I had a background in clinical social work, and eventually I ended up doing it for a living.
Wow.
So I hung a shingle and I started doing pranic healing for other people because it was so effective, and I was so excited that it could help people so well. And I was too excited to not share it with other people, even though I was terrified to go out there and teach. I just felt compelled to tell people what I knew.
Well, I think when spirit puts something on your heart, the whole path just unwinds, and right in front of you occurs all the opportunity that you need to make these things happen. And it sounds like there was kind of a divine intervention. Like, although you were facing a crisis, you used that crisis as an impetus into what you're doing today, which is helping probably millions of people.
Well, God willing, that's the plan. So
well, when you think about it, you teach one, somebody learns it, and then they go out and teach that on a regular basis. Like, you have one teacher and they're teaching hundreds. I mean, it can be quite big.
Right. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, not long ago, I did a free intro. Well, probably long ago, right before COVID, but I had done a free intro to pranic healing. And this lady showed up and she said, Julie, I don't know if you remembered me, but 20 years before that, I had helped her after the death of her son. And she was in very serious grief and anxiety and having trouble just functioning. And we had probably 3 or 4 sessions, and I didn't hear from her again, but she said it changed my life. The work you did changed my life. And she said, I have been a source of healing for other people because of it. And I talk to people about getting through grief. And so, like you said, you don't know the effects you have. And it was one of the, neatest things to hear that I was able to help her so that she could help so many people.
Isn't it amazing?
Yes.
So explain to people what pranic healing is. I think a lot of people understand or know Reiki, but I think pranic is so beautiful. It kind of explain it in, in layman's terms, so people can kind of understand why this is so important and they need it.
Okay. All right. So prana means energy, right? So it's energy healing. We are energy beings. We are made in the image and likeness of God. So what does God look like? Does he look like a man or a woman? What does he look like? So God is energy, right? So we are energy beings with a physical body. And when we go through life and things happen, like illness even occurs first in the energy field before it gets into the physical body. So, with certain ailments where you have the symptoms don't appear until, well, even like with COVID, for so many days after exposure. So that's sitting in the aura or the energy field. So when we can work on the energy field, oftentimes we prevent disease from manifesting in the body, right?
So what is an aura?
An aura is the energy field around you. It's the energy that your body radiates. Since you are a spiritual being, you radiate energy. And then this physical body is in the middle of it somewhere, right? So at the core of you is this brilliant light that radiates through your physical body. So I think, can you show that picture you have of the aura?
Well, and I would love to, because I think it's so exciting. Yes. So what she's speaking to, I'm going to just kind of show you the book. It's
Miracles Through Pranic Healing by Master Choa Koksui.
Yes, and I actually got this book from Julie because she taught me this class. So it's kind of exciting. So this
And
is,
if you will, Donna, if you show them that outside picture, that's a picture of a healing angel. But were you to add a body to that, and maybe not quite as brilliant, that's what we look like. We are beings of light, but then we have a physical body to deal with.
isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we understand this a lot. So that's kind of the picture. So kind of
Yeah.
explain that a little bit.
So that there is a picture of a person's aura, Kirlian photography. I think it was 1959. They were able to take pictures and show the energy field of the body. So this is scientifically proven that we have an energy field. And that picture is before the man received, I think he received like 10 different sessions of healing on his body. I think, was that the fellow who had diabetes? And then he had 10 sessions or more. What does it say there? But after his sessions,
he was a 62-year-old patient with diabetes and neurological problems. And you're so right on 10 sessions he had.
10 sessions, there you go. You're testing me. Anyway, so after 10 sessions, his aura became brighter and stronger. And so those, you can see around parts of his body where the aura is very thin, that shield around him is very thin. So on the left, and then on the right, after many healings, it gets stronger, and that helps his body to be more resistant and resilient to any ailments that come his way.
I think that's so cool. This is another one. That one says it's fingertips.
Yes. And one of the pictures they have, I don't know if it's in that book or in the workbook, is about after they do the meditation on twin hearts, which is another way to rebuild your energy.
Yeah. Could you speak a little bit to twin hearts? I love twin hearts. It's probably one of the best meditations I've ever done.
Yes, I agree, because I started trying to meditate, 25, probably 35 years ago, and really wanted to learn how to find peace and meditate. And I just couldn't get still. I couldn't find that quiet within me, right? But when I learned meditation on twin hearts, it's kind of built in where you are practicing stillness, but only after you take in lots of energy and send out lots of energy to others. So the meditation on twin hearts, the twin hearts are your heart energy center and your crown energy center. So the whole point of twin hearts is it is in giving that you receive. Okay, so it's based on the prayer of St. Francis, which is a universal prayer. Side note, pranic healing is not based on any particular religion, but religions help us to become more spiritual, or at least they should. So all religions are highly respected and encouraged. And the idea is to really be aware of your own spirituality and to nurture that, and do that through churches, through prayer, and through meditation. So the meditation is about opening your heart more and bringing in more of that divine light so you can be an instrument of that light and peace to others. So you focus on the whole planet Earth, which has been so neat to do right now with all the chaos on the planet, to feel like I can do something. I can bless the planet Earth through this prayer. And I can send divine light and energy to help others, instead of just go, oh boy, this is terrible, or to give opinions or get all dramatic about stuff. No, let's just pray and let's bless other people, and let's bless the earth with this light. So we open up our heart, we visualize other people who are in need, who need help and need energy, need blessings. And then that triggers the crown energy center, and that offers this downpour of divine energy. So when we say, make me an instrument of your peace and energy to the higher beings, then divine energy pours through our crown and pours out our heart and hands, and we send that to the planet Earth. So our focus for the first 20 minutes of the meditation is on other people and on being an instrument of blessing and of grace, and to send out all of this light and love to others. But what that does is that energy's pouring through us. So it's washing away all our thoughts, all our stress, all our anxiety, and just getting that out of our system so that the light of the divine beings can go to the planet Earth and to the people on the planet. And we get to focus extra special time on our own families and our neighborhoods and on ourselves. But the result of that blessing it is literally in giving those blessings that you receive so much blessing. And so when they say now sit still and focus, internally on your own energy, it's so easy because you just took this internal shower. And then you just sit there and you wallow in the presence of the divine within you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I
And
just,
then you're stronger and more able to help and serve others, right? It's a
right.
self-healing tool.
Yeah, I just finished reading a book by Lynn McTaggart. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she started doing work on bringing together a group of 8 people, and how groups together that pray together, they find that they pray for one thing, but that each person individually receives gifts by praying for each other, for praying for other people. So it goes right to what you're saying in the twin hearts. You're praying for the world that's in front of you. But as you are doing that, you are cleansing all of that from you. And then you are also receiving blessings, and other people are doing the twin hearts kind of at the same time. I know you guys have a group that does it you do it like once a month, where everybody kind of gets together as a group and they do that prayer together.
Yes, but not only that, if you got online and looked at pranichealing.com,
Mhm,
Pranic healing.com,
mhm.
you can find Master Stephen Coe, who's on probably 3 times a week offering live free meditation on twin hearts. And he gives a little lecture beforehand and explains different aspects of pranic healing and energy. I have a group that we meet on Thursday mornings at 8:30, and we meditate together, and there have been a consistent group of 12 people. and then we'll mention sometimes, since we've kind of had this closed little group, we're going to open it up. Hopefully by January, I'll open it up to everyone, but we'll have different petitions. We'll say, let's pray for this person. And one of the ladies back probably 6 months ago, she said, now I have a friend, and this is a lady in England, so it's really cool. We have people all over the world meditating together.
And praying for our world.
Yes, and
And we
spreading
need
that light,
that.
right? Yeah. When she said, if you would please, I know it's for large groups, but if we could consider my friend, she's in the hospital with COVID and she's on a ventilator and they don't expect her to live, you know, through the next week, she should be gone, and just pray for her soul. So the whole group just focused in and prayed for her. And then the next week we got together and she said, well, my friend is home. And we're like, oh, and she said, no, she's home at her house. She recovered the next day miraculously. They couldn't explain it. She got off the ventilator, and we're like, we're hoping that energy and light went her way, because there was 12 people focusing on that and asking the angels to be with her. We also, when you do practice meditation on twin hearts, we encourage you to visualize the angels surrounding you and joining with you in your prayer to intensify the energy for the sake of the planet and for the people we're praying for.
That is just so beautiful. I just love
It's,
it. Honestly, I do love it. And I think it's very interesting. I don't know about you, but you could probably speak a little bit more to this. But when patients come in and I do pranic healing with them, they leave and then I reach out to them and they're like, oh, it was amazing. And during the time that it's all going on, I'm like, I don't know, is it working or what's
yeah.
going on? And then, people come back and they're like, oh my gosh, it was awesome.
Right. Yeah.
That seems to
Yeah.
be.
It's fun to hear later. Sometimes people just kind of expect a miracle and then they leave and they tell you 10 years later. Well.
Yeah, I have a lady that I do like so many different things. I kind of incorporate this when I feel like it's appropriate, but I have a lady who had open heart surgery and had a lot of trauma in her life, and she's very young. And I said to her, like, maybe we should try to heal some of these wounds. And so we did pranic healing with her, and every time she's just like, I cannot believe how much stronger that I feel. I mean, every single time. And it's something she's never heard of. She's never done before. And every session was just amazingly beautiful. I'm sure you experienced that a lot.
Well, yes, and with heart disease, it's so powerful because we are spiritual beings, we're physical beings, we are emotional beings, we are mental beings. So it's all those layers that need to be addressed. So I love medicine. I think doctors are great and they really help the body. And psychology and psychiatry helps the mind and the emotions, but we also have to address the spirit, and the energy work can go to all of those levels as well. So I have been taught by Master Choa Kok Sui, Master Ko, that we are not to replace traditional medicine or traditional therapies, but to be used with it. That's what's so great about what you do, Donna, is that you incorporate these other modalities into your work. Because we're so multifaceted, we have to address all of the parts of us.
Yeah, it's so interesting in teaching people to meditate. I think speaking to that, you spoke about that a little bit earlier, but how important it is to turn the volume down.
Right. And to be still and to be quiet. Yes. But also to re-energize and to be aware. So with meditation on twin hearts, there is that turn the volume down, there is the quiet, but it's the recharging and the remembering who you really are. So I said before that I was really afraid to teach, go out in public and teach. I was comfortable doing my little private practice, and I was comfortable raising my children and doing all that. And my father, who I used to do regular work on him, he had multiple ailments. I never knew where to begin, but we worked on every protocol we could. But he said, when I was asked by the teachers if I would teach, I'm like, I don't know. And I told my dad, I'm just like, I don't want to put myself out there. This was, 25 years ago when nobody was really talking about energy work. And I guess I thought they were still lynching people who talked about energy. And I was like, I don't want to put myself out there and talk about this. And this is my dad, who was a, old Catholic Archie Bunker type person who, but he's like, this stuff is so good, Julie, you have to. And he said, if for no other reason, you have to do that work to teach people who they really are. The fact that we are spiritual beings is so important, and we forget that. And for him, he was always aware of that because his body was always not right. And somehow he could always, like, he was born sick, he had ailments from birth, but he was so aware that he was so much more than his body. So he knew, I'm not the body, I'm not the emotions, I'm not the thoughts, I'm the soul. He knew he was a spiritual being. And he had so much inner strength that was remarkable for all he had to go through. He just had faith and strength, and he knew he was much more than what his body was doing.
Isn't that awesome? It sounds like you've had several family things that have really been affected by the work that you do. You said your son was kind of suffering when he was younger, and that's kind of
actually my daughter, I wouldn't say she was suffering because we just took it as a normal thing in life, but she had learning disabilities, and she was only 3 years old, but we just took it for granted. But my sister is a physical therapist, and she was at a craniosacral therapy class, and she had asked a question about, can you help kids with learning delays at the craniosacral therapy class? And they said, sure, we can work with the brainstem and the brain and the cerebral spinal fluid. And, they gave their answer. But on the break, two of the women she knew who were PTs that she had known in the business said, Mary Jo, we just took this energy healing class. We don't understand it at all, but it's the coolest thing ever. You asked about your niece. Maybe we could work on her and do some energy healing on her and just see how she does. And my sister loved these women, and they're very down to earth and very normal. So, I mean, this was 27 years ago, right? So it was like, what is this stuff? Yeah.
You do what to my daughter?
Yeah. But my sister and I are very close, and you know that too. But anyway, and she's very down to earth, and her friends are very down to earth. And they said, we just can't believe the results we're getting ever since we started practicing it. So she asked me, do you want to take Natalie to go see these ladies? And I'm like, well, let me pray about it first, and I'm like, okay. So I do this little thing, and where I kind of randomly go to my Bible and go, okay, what do you want to tell me? I'd been doing that all through high school and college. And so I randomly opened it, and it said that Jesus sent the 72 out to heal the sick. And, I was like, what, 72? I thought of the 12. I never thought of the 72. And then the other thing, so I thought, well, I guess people can heal people. It's not just has to be Jesus, right? Other people can do healing. I don't know why I thought that, And the other part was, the guy said, the disciples said to him and said, there's some guy out there doing healing in your name, but we don't know him. And he's like, well, if he's not against us, then he's with us, right? So the significance of that comes to, after I prayed, I thought, this is a good thing. Something tells me this will be good for Natalie. So I told my husband, he's like, well, I trust you and Mary Jo's judgment. Sure, whatever you think. So we took her in for a session, and I said, I don't want to get into any weird stuff. I don't know anything about this. I was raised Catholic and I like it. And they're like, oh, we're both Christian too, but it's not about religion. I have since opened my mind, I want you to know. But they said, it's not about religion, it's about spirituality. And they said, but yeah, I mean, everything we do in the name of Jesus, because that's who we get our energy from. That's our source, our spiritual source. So it was kind of reflected what I had prayed about, right? So my daughter's 3 years old. She goes into this room. She's going to go into this room with these two women who are going to do a combination of energy work and cranial sacral therapy. And I was like, I'm just really nervous. And they said, she can probably tell you're nervous. Why don't we let your sister Mary Jo come in with us? And you can just sit here and look at the Pranic healing book. And I'm like, okay. So I could learn about it and not make Natalie nervous. And so Mary Jo and Natalie are very close, and she went in there with them. And I was reading the book and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I just got so excited and I loved everything about it. And Natalie came out of that room an hour later and she was practically floating. I'm like, what in the world? And she's like, Mommy, I'm all better now. Like, oh my gosh. And she had said to my sister, Aunt Jo, I feel so good. And so they had told me about, we found these blockages in her hip area. We found something in her left ear. I'm like, well, she had chronic ear infections in her left ear. And they said there was something in the the area of the brain for language, but they described it exactly wherever that is. And I'm like, wow, that's the area for language. And anyway, she just came out feeling so light and beautiful. And I was like, that's all I needed. Well, we went straight from there. This is a long story. I hope you have time. We went straight from there to meet my mom and dad for lunch. And my mom and dad are like, what did you do to Natalie? I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, my God, she usually gets so agitated at a place like this. We were at a real noisy restaurant, and they're like, why is she so calm? And my dad's like, I want whatever she's got, And I said, well, Mary Jo's friends do energy work. And we took them to them for energy work. And he's like, sign me up. I want some now. She is just so peaceful.
Aww.
And I didn't know it. And my mom didn't realize it then, but she could see energy. And she's like, she's just glowing. She is just glowing. And so about 3 weeks later, we took Natalie back again, and Mom got a session and Dad got a session and I got a session too. It was like the whole group, and after that was just a few weeks later. Yeah. And my dad was, as I said, had many ailments, and he was a brittle diabetic, and he had no blood flow in his foot, and they were going to amputate his foot.
Oh.
So he was going to do the hyperbaric oxygen chamber and all these other things, but they started working on him. At the end of the session, there was blood on the bandage, which was amazing. And they were just so excited. My dad was so excited. The girls are like, is that okay? And he's like, yes, that's what we needed. Okay. Yeah, so he ended up losing some toes in the long run because he didn't follow through, but the fact that he kept his foot was amazing, and my mom had a severe migraine that day, and she left without a migraine, and she said that has never happened. So
I've done it for my daughter for migraines too, and yeah, had really good results.
It's amazing. It helps so much. I've had so many people who've had, and for me, honestly, that's one of the biggest blessings for me is I was able to help my mom with her migraines. She had migraines, chronic migraines, the whole time I was growing up. And so I was able to help her, and they started going from daily to weekly to monthly to a couple of years.
It's so amazing that your family has been so supportive along the way too, which really helps promote you into, being good with what you're doing. And I think, initially you hear about pranic healing, and the religion is kind of like, people get really, like, that's not in my religion, but I have also too learned that, we work through Jesus and we work through that light. And if we are open and allowing, we are open and allowing energy to move. And I think what you're doing is so amazing, that you're opening people's mind to the possibility that we are, put here to help each other. We are put here to heal. And yes, we do need medical and we do need therapists and we do need those things. But this whole energy thing and how it gets stuck in the chakras and the meridians and things becomes and can be very health devastating.
Right, right. So if you go to the doctor for chronic pain in your back and you go to a chiropractor, and if you don't get that blockage of energy out of there, it's going to keep recurring. Once you remove the blockage of energy, things can be healed.
Yeah, I'm going to
So
show,
without it, you don't get the
this
total
picture. Maybe you could kind of talk about that a little bit.
And what is that?
So they're pictures of before pranic healing, after cleaning, and then after cleaning and energizing. And they're the is it called Kirlian photography?
Kirlian photography, yes.
Yeah, so they took pictures of different stages. And this bottom one is the healthy. This is where the patient started. And then they use light, I think a violet light here, and then a green and yellow light here. And as you can see, it begins to change the whole energy. And this is probably one of my favorites.
Yes, a loving couple together.
Yeah, I see that a lot in doing heart math work. And heart math is where we're doing that heart focus. So when we do that twin heart meditation, it is moving our energy, and it's that whole breath work that happens through doing heart work, which is just opening our heart and being vulnerable, which just makes it so beautiful.
Yes. Yes. And then the point too, I mean, even like with the picture you showed, that clearing out of energy, when we're talking about the results we've gotten through our work and people go, oh, well, they've both been, one's been doing energy work for 25 years and she's, a nurse practitioner. She's been doing this forever. Anyone can do this. That's the beauty. That's one of the coolest things to me about pranic healing, is that Master Choa Koksui wrote that book in such a way. It's like, when I first got married, I was like, I don't know if I can cook. And my mother-in-law said, if you can read, you can cook, because the recipes are there. People who've practiced lay it all out step by step, and all you have to do is read it and do what they say. That's the way Master Choa Koksui developed pranic healing. And the textbook is so great. And it has individual ailments.
It does.
Particular ailments that all you have to do is, once you take the class, you learn about the chakras, you learn how to move your hands, you learn what to do, you learn the basics. You don't have to be born with a special gift. You don't have to be,
we are the special gift,
right? You have to have an aura yourself. And how do we know if you have an aura? You are alive. So if you are alive, you can do this. If you can't read, we can draw pictures. But the easiest way to teach is to just show people. In the class, we have these great videos that demonstrate what energy looks like and what it looks like when you clear the energy. And I don't have those available for you today for this. I should have figured out how to connect that. But it's so easy to learn. And then you take home your textbook and you go to different protocols and you say, oh, migraine headache. So when I took the 2-day class, I just went home and got to the textbook and said, how do I work on a migraine? And so my mom came over to my house. She had a headache and I worked on the head area. And she's like, oh my gosh, my head's starting to feel better. She's like, but now I'm queasy. I'm like, oh my gosh, the next step is to work on the solar plexus energy center. So then I worked on that. And she's like, okay, yeah, I feel a little better, but my back really hurts. I'm like, oh, now I'm supposed to work on your spine. And she's like, okay, that feels better. But the bottom of my spine, I'm like, no, I have to work on the basic chakra. So her symptoms were following the protocol. So Master Choa Koksui studied this for 25 to 30 years before he built this textbook for us. So he practiced it, he tested it, he did experiments. He was a scientist working with energy. He worked with medical doctors and people who could see energy, clairvoyance, and
so awesome.
Studied it systematically, scientifically, so that all we have to do is know how to read, and then we can do it ourselves.
Yeah, I want to show a picture of the heart chakra too, because I just think these are so beautiful. But these are 2 pictures. I don't know if you can see both of them.
Yes. Perfect.
One's the front and one's the back. And can you
Mhm.
just talk about that a little bit?
So the energy centers, if you look at other modalities, they talk about the energy centers and they might have a color, right? Like I think they say in Reiki that the heart chakra is green because it's
Yep.
harmonious. But in fact, when you look and you study and you look at the heart chakra, it is red and gold. And there's 12 petals for the heart chakra. But if you can show the picture of the crown next, the reason they call the heart and the crown twin hearts is because no, that's the ajna. Look at
Oh
the
yeah, that's
crown.
the
I'm
third eye.
sorry.
Sorry.
The crown, the center of the crown looks just like the heart. See that red and gold in the middle?
How cool is that?
So yeah, so that's the 12 centers in the middle of the crown that has 144 petals. Anyway, so it's all
Yeah, so
very
that I
cool.
guess for clarity, it would have been this picture here that you're
Yes,
talking about.
exactly. That's what we said. Yes. But those pictures, so through his study, Master Cho worked with very high level clairvoyants, very spiritual beings. So when we were young, we'd hear about saints who would have visions, who would see things. So the more purified someone's energy is, the more clearly they can see. So one of the men who worked with Master Cho Koksui, whose name was Mang Mike, and he was my friend Kim got to meet him and said he was just such a beautiful soul, but he could see the chakras very clearly. And Master Choa would practice on his own body and tell the chakra to stop spinning so that they could get a good look at it. And they described to an artist what it looked like. They would count how many petals there were, and then they could be as detailed and specific about what the energy centers do and how they work. And so you learn so much in pranic healing, so much more detail. And we talk about 11 chakras rather than just 7, because in Reiki, you're doing energizing the whole time. And certain energy centers, you'll learn in pranic healing, you should not energize. So they wouldn't talk about the energy centers that you energized in Reiki because they only used energizing, right?
Yeah.
But 90% of the work that I do in pranic healing is cleansing of the energy centers. So rather than just filling the energy centers with more light, we're clearing them of any blockages. And as you learn to scan and feel the energy, you can feel where the heaviness is, and you can feel where it's kind of sticky, and you just use light to clear those energy centers, and then they can start recovering and working properly on their own because the dirty energy is gone. But then we add fresh energy as bonus for more energy and power to speed up the process of healing.
It's so beautiful and it's so effective. So I told you I did my daughter, and we were at a party for Easter at my niece's house, and their dog had taken sick, and it's an old dog. They were giving him medicine and had been all week. He had reverted to not eating at all. They had to like pick him up the day we were there. They were picking him up, putting him in the yard so he could go to the bathroom. So we're getting ready to leave, and my daughter's in love with dogs, like in love with dogs. She's like, Mom, do that thing that you do, whatever that is. Do that to the dog. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. So I just sat there and prayed and did the cleaning and thought, well, I have no idea. So we see our niece maybe a month or two later, and their dog is fine. Like literally that day, she was like, they didn't think their dog was going to make it. Like he just was not responding at all. So it was so like, and it was so good for my daughter too, because
Right.
it was her idea. And then the dog, I mean, it's just like, we just don't know like
Right.
what's
Right.
going to happen. And it's so powerful.
And it's so great. It's a great thing to be able to help the people that we care about. So when I work on my son, I'm always like, can you feel that? Can you feel that? Because I don't do that to clients, but I did it to him because my one daughter feels everything. And he's like, no, Mom, I can't feel it. But when you're done, I feel better. And I'm like, okay, that's all that matters. Well, he had to travel. This was a few years ago, and he was going to get on an airplane, but his ears were bothering him. And I was busy doing something with my hands. I was sewing or doing something. And my daughter, Natalie, was over. And I'm like, Natalie, will you work on your brother? Because he's got to fly. And she had taken the basic class with me. And she's the reason we got into pranic healing, right? And so she started working on his head so his ear wouldn't hurt when he flew. And he's like, oh my God, I can totally feel that. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, he could feel everything she did and he felt better and he was able to fly without any trouble. So it was really neat for him and for her to be able to do that. But that's the thing that's so rewarding, is to teach people how to do this so they can help their family. I learned it so I could help Natalie and not keep going to these people every month, and I could maintain the sessions myself.
And then
But
it turned into an occupation, and then you became an
and the
educator.
goal is a pranic healer in every household, because what will you do if you're practicing pranic healing? You can't help but understand that you are a spiritual being, because somebody's not even touching your body and your body's getting better. So what is going on there? You're a spiritual being. And then when you know you're a spiritual being, it changes everything about the way you live your life, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to continue existing even after the body doesn't work anymore. So make sure it's ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess kind of like as we begin to wrap up, we had talked in the beginning about exhaustion. And you have, because I'm a nurse practitioner, this is very interesting to me. That
Well, and your book too. I love your book. And I love that you talk about trying to find ways to help yourself, because I have seen so many doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners.
Oh
And
my
I'm
heavens.
going to tell another story, and it's about my daughter, who is a nurse practitioner now, but when she was working in the hospital, during her rounds, during her study and all that, she called me one day and she's like, oh my God, Mom, I have the worst migraine. I'm like, oh, I'm good at migraines, right? So I start the protocol for the migraine, and it's not going away. It's not going away. It's not going away. And I'm like, Zoe, were you at the hospital today? And she said, yes. I'm like, oh, okay. So I gathered any cords attached to her spleen energy center. And so we get cords when we interact with another person, especially medical people, nurse practitioners, doctors, all of you who are in the hospitals with very, very sick people. You're that source of energy and prana. So you're this big energy source, and the people with no energy are going to attach to you. We connect energetically through cords that people who are clairvoyant can see. But most of those cords attach to the spleen, because that's where your body takes in the fresh energy. So you can get zapped pretty quickly through your spleen if you're not aware of the cords that are connected. So I just gathered cords. I pulled this cord out of her spleen and cut the cord. And she's like, my migraine's gone. I'm like, oh my gosh, 30 minutes later, all I had to do was cut the cord and you'd have been fine. But learning how to cut cords can help people not get burnt out so quickly. I've had, in the last month, I've told you, I've had 2 medical doctors in my office who just look like they're dying. They're so exhausted, they're so tired, they're working so hard, and they're so frustrated, and they're exhausted. And when you go to feel that spleen, it's so congested, and clear things out, and they're just like, oh. So to help them learn, they're going to practice medicine. I don't expect they're going to go back to the hospital and practice energy work, but if they can learn some things about energetic anatomy and learn how to keep themselves functioning, then good for us, to have healthy doctors walking around.
Yes, like that was really why I wrote the book, because I was going through so much, what you can call it trauma, you can call it energy. It's probably a good mix of things. Yeah, I was very exhausted. And what I was learning was that like all that energy around us, and all the patients that we see and we take care of, and then all those cords that are attaching, and then we don't do any work to keep ourselves healthy. I started doing meditation. I started, exercise. I was always an exerciser, cleaning the diet up, taking vitamin supplements, doing energy work, seeing you as a patient, and really learning to take good care of myself, because we in this world feel like we have to take care of everybody else, but we cannot do our job until we take care of ourselves first. So going to a class and learning how to do this, for me, when I took the class, was because I had such good results with you. So then I took the class so that when I'm sitting beside a patient, I can understand what's going on with them energetically, and then begin to refer them to the places that they need to go to heal. And then now I do that myself. I help patients do that at the office. but it's really about taking good care of ourselves and trying
Right.
to prevent exhaustion, because like it's a rewarding job. I love patients. Like I love being around people all day and groups of people. And not everybody can say that. And when you're a practitioner, like it's a kind of a requirement. And so you have all these different energy. Like, can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, so since you're able then to be in your own energy and to cut the negative cords, it's so much easier to be in the company of so many people, and you can enjoy and radiate that. So when you walk into the room, you think, let me be a source of that divine light rather than, taking it from other people or what have you. Let me be a source of that light. Let me radiate that divine light to other people. And it's fun to share that good news and that good stuff that you've learned, right? But
Mhm.
I think it's important too that you also look at diet, you look at nutrition. So if we are energy, we have to be aware of what energy are we putting in our bodies, and be aware that food is energy, and drugs are energy, and medication is energy, and cigarettes are energy, and some energies are dirty and gunky, and some are really good, and some really work well with our body and some don't. So we have to just look at ourselves as multi-layered beings and take really good care of ourselves, and
Absolutely.
then teach other people, right? That the idea to me, yeah, people could come see me for healing, but you know how to do this. And other people have been trained to do this, but they can learn to do it themselves. And that's where the magic happens, because they can daily be aware of themselves as an energy being. They can cut their cords. They can learn all of these self-healing modalities and techniques that are going to help them in whatever work they do. If they're a barista, they're going to be a nicer barista because they feel better. It's just important to
I think
help
all
people be
baristas
their
should know how
best.
to do that. And I guess
Yeah.
for people that don't know what a barista is, it's somebody that helps people through energy of passing away or in hospice and things
Well,
like
I
that.
was talking about a coffee barista at
Oh, well,
Starbucks.
there's actually a barista. I think it's called barista that actually
Oh,
do
cool.
energy work with people as they're passing. So they use the pranic and different kind of healing modalities to help people.
Yeah, and my
And that,
daughter-in-law works as a nurse in hospice, and so she'll some days be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm getting so tired, and I'm just getting a headaches." And I'm like, "Have you cut your cords?" And she's like, "Oh, do you take a salt bath after? Oh gosh, oh my God, I'm doing my salt bath again. I feel so much better, because of the energy there." But she can help cut cords for people, and help people move on. It's awesome. Yeah.
oh, this is so awesome. Can you
So
tell people how to find you? I know you're going to be doing some classes coming up. You have an introductory class coming in January and a
I'm going to
level
do,
2.
yeah. Yes, I'm doing level 2, which you've already taken, but you can review it again with me next weekend. Not this coming, but the next. But January, it's the 15th and 16th. I'm going to do a level 1 class where you learn the basics of pranic healing.
You
It's a
write this down
2-day
so we can
class,
put it in the post when we get done. So it'll be January.
15th and 16th, Saturday and Sunday, and it should be in Kirkwood. At the Franciscan Sisters Place. It's a beautiful venue. And I will teach just all about self-healing, about meditation on twin hearts, how to heal other people. We even learn about distant healing. We learn about all kinds of ways of cleaning a room and cleaning your house and energetically, and really taking care of your family and loved ones, and or just yourself. But anyway, that class is January 15th and 16th. If you look on pranichealing.com, I will post that soon. It's not posted yet. So just mark your calendar for the fact that it will be coming up. But pranichealing.com, you can find classes all over the country. And you can, whoever is listening, wherever you are, you can find a pranic healing class, and you can learn how to take these classes and learn how to heal yourselves and others. And if you're interested after that, then you can learn about advanced pranic healing, where we talk about colors. Then there's pranic psychotherapy, where you learn about emotional illnesses and help people really overcome terrible, terrible blocks in their life, and it's magical
It
and
is
divine.
magical. You're magical too. It's so
Thank
awesome.
you.
It's so awesome that you've opened your gift that Jesus has given you. Like you've opened the gift to being a healer. And I think originally when I first started doing a lot of this work, I was unsure about like, how am I to help other people heal? Like, who am I to do that? And as you begin to work with it and understand, and you read the Bible, and it talks about, learning to be a healer through the Holy Spirit, through Jesus. And like, what's your thoughts about that? Because I think that's so important.
Well, for me, I felt like when I first attended the class and they were talking about beings of light and all of these things, I'm like, oh my God, they talk about this all the time at church. They talk about the fact that we are beings of light. They talk about don't hide your light under a bushel basket. They talk about these miraculous healings that Jesus did and how he used the mud to put on the guy's eyes as a paste to heal his eyes. That's prana. Mud is earth prana. And it's that prana was on his eyes and it drew out the disease and opened his eyes. And when you took classes with Master Choa, he would draw those lines clearly and say, look, Jesus was the healer, right? And he used energy to heal, but Jesus was an extremely pure, high energy being. So he could walk in a room or walk in a town and people could be healed by his energy. But we can just plug into someone like that, a divine source, and we can be instruments of that same healing energy. So without spirituality, I would have never done this. And when Master Choa teaches pranic psychotherapy, he said, if you're going to do pranic psychotherapy, you need to pray. You need to invoke for divine guidance and help. And he said, if you're an atheist, pray harder. Which
I like that. You're atheist, pray harder.
Because you need the divine to help with this work, because people are spiritual beings. So if we don't have that spiritual access, we're not going to do so good,
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I liked how you talked about God as energy. I was listening to an interesting podcast today, and they were talking about like, what does Jesus look like? And when you picture that, what do you see? You see man. Well, Jesus is not man, he's spirit. And, God is.
And so are you. Yeah.
Right. And so like, it was like, well, yeah, because like, we have all these pictures hanging on the wall, but those are really just what man made. The energy is all around us all the time and available for us to use if we just learn how to do it and take classes to learn how to do it appropriately so that we're not harming people, we're doing good things.
And angels are at our beck and call, which is like such a gift. There's Master Nona is one of the pranic healing instructors, and she talks about the angels and how to pray to the angels for help. But the last thing I can say is one of her biggest prayers that she recommends is the angel of God prayer that you say when you're to your babies. The angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, ever this day be at my side, to light, to guard, to rule and guide. You're calling angels to be with you and to help you and to help your kids. So don't forget these things that we take for granted. There's so much power we have access to through our prayers.
I love that. I've never heard that before.
Oh, look up Angel of God and
I'm writing it down.
And put that. Oh yeah, I'm going to be a grandma, so that's like the poster I'm buying for this baby that we're going to get. I'm so excited.
So it's Angel of God prayer.
Yep, and it's by Anonymous, who's written lots of things.
Anonymous. that'd be God's spirit, but yeah.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, thank you for coming on today and sharing with the world your gifts. As a teacher, I have actually experienced spending time with Julie, and her heart is so pure. So anybody that wants to do classes with her, I will post when those classes are and how to find her. And we thank her. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be with you, Donna Uradal. Thank you so much for your energy.
Everything. So until next time, we just pray everybody has wealth and health, and like reach out and be the spirit and the light that God said we should be for each other so that our world can really heal.
Yay. Amen. Thanks, Donna.
Bye.
Bye.